8 fall camp practices now in the book for Nebraska. Hi, Sean Callahan with HuskerOnline.com. As we heard from defensive coordinator John Butler and several different defensive players, as well as defensive backs coach Addison Williams here on Tuesday. But as you hear from Butler, he really likes how this group has come together.
I don't necessarily want to say what we're doing best, because then that kind of opens the door for maybe they don't think they're doing this well. But I think that we know who we want to be defensively from a culture standpoint. We want to be physical, we want to run to the ball like nobody's ever seen, and we want to make big plays and finish. From an execution standpoint, we've kind of gotten out of the install realm, meaning like you're installing these plays, and when you're installing something, you're still as a player trying to figure it out. Now you're more into, okay, those defenses are installed. Now it's polishing them. It's working on executing them better, playing them with more physicality so they can play faster and they can execute those plays better. I know I heard Dana say, like, it's about making the routine plays. There's no real magic in football. I'm not going to come up with a defense that nobody can block, because if there was one, every defensive coordinator in the country would run it. So it's really about just working that process, holding the players to the standard, and then building that unit constantly of, just like I talked about the O-line, how well they work together. A great defense collectively as 11 all works together. They know where the strengths and weaknesses of each call are. They play to them, and then they work like hell every day to communicate and work together.
And for Butler, one of the biggest things is trying to block out some of the outside noise and just focusing on the task at hand.
We don't care what anybody else says outside of this building. We really don't even address that there is a narrative. Now, we're not fools. We realize that these kids, they're on social media and they have people in their ears, but our message to them is constantly about what we do on a daily basis, detailing and kind of highlighting their performance and then their development and improvement, so they can see it as they're getting better, where they were here and where they are now, and then where they obviously need to be. But, what the outside says about any of us really doesn't have an impact on what we're doing. What has an impact on what we're doing is what we're doing here every single day, about our execution, our physicality, our techniques, our ability to finish plays, and our ability to develop players and get them to believe.
We've heard a lot about the defensive line, as well as there's several holes Nebraska needs to replace from a year ago. And one of the players that Butler was pretty defiant on will have a role on this defense in some way or another is Williams Nwaneri.
Williams is going to see the field, so I can tell you that. He's a good player that has a huge upside, that just needs to kind of keep working in this grind of this program at Nebraska that is going to fortify him into a grown man on the field and off. So I think that all the accolades that Will has received previous to coming to Nebraska are warranted, but his day-to-day here has, through our strength staff, through our player development staff, through our coaches, has kind of made an impact on him. And I think that if he keeps heading in the right direction, we're going to be excited about what Will continues to be, not what he is now.
And one of the other big newcomers to this defense has been Andrew Marshall at corner. Not only did Butler talk about his impact, but as did Addison Williams.
Drew is a pro. He's a pro. I totally 100% agree with Coach Rule on that. And the one thing about Drew is that he has that chip on his shoulder coming from an FCS school, and he feels like, hey, I should have been here before now. But now that but he's not holding that as a grudge, against anybody else, but he's taking it and using it as motivation from a standpoint as, hey, I'm here now, so I'm going to go prove myself. And he has that mentality, whether we're in the weight room, whether we're running gassers, film room, wherever we're at, he has that mentality. He's a real competitor.
I think for me, it's just a constant, chip on my shoulder, just that I belong here in the first place, and now, I'm at that level, and, I'm here to prove what I already know is true.
Came to Nebraska from Idaho, where he was an all-conference player in the Big Sky, and just making that jump from the FCS to the Big Ten was a big topic of discussion.
For me, it's been very smooth. I say coming from the FCS program I did come from, we had a very high-level organization, very high-level players that ended up making it to the NFL. So transition from there to coming here has been smooth. Just now working against more NFL talent, just being consistent on a day-to-day basis has been very smooth.
And just the overall level of amenities as well was something that jumped out for Marshall making the jump to Nebraska.
Nutrition was a big one. Just the training staff, you just have a lot more access to things that can benefit you really. Most definitely, I think at my FCS program, like I thought we had it good. I got here and it was 10 times better. I'm like, you got more access to nutrition. There's new staff members that are here to help you, so it was very eye-opening.
Like, oh, this is all ours, right?
Yeah, I was really like, I get all this. Like, all this is for my benefit. Like, yeah, it was very nice.
And this secondary in practice has no doubt been challenged at times by Nebraska's talented wide receivers, as Marshall weighed on who some of those players were.
I'd definitely say Dan Key and Isaiah Hunter. Most definitely competing against them both. It's very, very competitive in practice. Just going back and forth. They both have different techniques, which allows me to play differently against both of them. So, line up against them, always got to have a plan for them. It's very competitive.
And back to the defensive line for Nebraska, we heard from both Riley Van Poppel and Elijah Judy just about where they're at in the big picture and how this defensive line is going to step up in the big shoes that need to be filled from a year ago.
Yeah, expectations for us, I know for me personally how I think of it is I just kind of want to shock the world with our D-line unit, with our defense as a whole. People have a lot of things to say about us. People aren't out there every day watching us go get after it. People don't know who we have in our room, new guys, young guys, whatever it is. But we get after it, and we're going to do that this year. We want to be one of the top defenses in the country, and I think we can easily do that. Not easily, but we very much have the capability to do it if we can just live to our potential and we can go out there and we can fly around.
Yeah, when we hear that, we just try to block it out because right now it's focused on us, and right now we try to live in the present, not the past. What we're doing, our goal is to do better than we did last year. So in order for us to do that, we got to do one foot in front of the other and just worry about right now.
Another player on this defensive line, Van Poppel said, that has had a big camp is Kiona Davis.
He can make a huge jump. I tell him all the time, that's someone we're counting on. We have a really good room right now, and I think a lot of people are doubting us on the outside, but inside that room, we are very confident. We kind of have a chip on our shoulder, and we don't care what people say about us. We know who we are, and that's something I talk to him about all the time because we're close. We're locker buddies, and his locker's right next to mine. Is he played last year, and he did great, but it's really just trying to instill some of the things that I learned from Ty and Nash into him and kind of pass it on because you see him out there, he's a physical freak. He's a guy, he has a high motor, and he goes. And so just having a guy like that next to you it makes it a lot easier for me to play and a lot easier for the rest of the room to play.
Huskers will be back here on Wednesday for practice number 9. Reporting with the Nebraska football team in Lincoln, I'm Sean Callahan of HuskerOnline.com.